Welcome back to another episode of The John, your daily sports lump, where we plunge into the sports world. We are a sports pipeline for breaking news, game recaps, and the hottest takes in the sports industry. So we are taking care of business, let us flush out the details, and fill you in on what's happening. So take a seat, get comfortable, and make sure you have plenty of TP. It's time to explode the commode. I'm your host, John, and today we're going to be doing my preview for the NFC West division this year. Guys, as you guys know, I've been away for a little bit. Sorry, I was moving into my college dorm. Now we're in the dorm, so a lot more podcasts will be coming, but sorry for that little break. All right, guys, let's start with the Seattle Seahawks and their additions and my predictions for them this year. So, the Seahawks had some big losses this year. They lost DK Metcalf. They traded him to the Steelers. They lost Geno Smith. They traded him to the Raiders. And they released their veteran, I think, one of the cornerstone receivers of this franchise, in Tyler Lockett. They released him. Their additions were pretty big. I think Sam Darnold is a better version of Geno Smith, and I don't think that's crazy to say that. I think he's a much better version of Geno Smith. I think he proved that last year, and we'll see that again this year. I think that the Seahawks have a good roster, and I like this next addition. I like Cooper Kupp. A lot of people will give him hate for not playing, but he's one of the best route runners and receivers in the NFL. And when he's healthy, he's one of the best receivers on the field, and he's proven that when he's healthy. I think this year, though, is a very much a prove-it year for him, especially coming off a rough season last year. I think this year is a big season for him and the Seattle Seahawks. They also signed DeMarcus Lawrence, which I think is a very underrated signing. DeMarcus Lawrence is one of the best edge rushers when he's in his prime, and I think if he can just rekindle just a little bit of that with the Seahawks, they will be fine, because they brought back Ernest Jones, they brought back Josh Jobe, they re-signed Jaron Reed. They have a they're going to have a solid defense. It's the offense that's a question for me, and I think Sam Darnold has a lot of question marks. I think, was he so good last year because he had Jordan Addison, because he had Justin Jefferson, because he had TJ Hockenson, because he had Aaron Jones, because he had all these weapons? Now he comes to a Seattle team where there's not as many weapons. So I'm very excited for them. It's a completely new roster. New quarterback one, new wide receiver run. So I'm very interested to see that. I'm also interested to see what they do with Kenneth Walker. But my record prediction for the Seattle Seahawks is a 10-7. I think they'll be a borderline playoff team. We saw that last year. They were borderline the whole year. I think this year they take that next step. I think Sam Darnold backs up the hype behind his name, and I think the same thing with Cooper Kupp, and I think this defense will be a very sustainable defense in this league. Next, the San Francisco 49ers. You guys might want to take a seat and get comfortable, because they have a lot of losses. Traded Deebo Samuel. They lost Dre Greenlaw, Aaron Banks, Talanoa Hufanga, Travarius Ward in free agency. So they lost a lot of guys and a lot of key guys. The Deebo Samuel one I don't think hurts them too much. I believe in Jennings. I believe in this wide receiver core. I believe in Pearsall. I believe in Kittle. The Samuel one does not hurt, because he started to fall off a little bit with the Niners near the end of his Niners tenure. But there was a lot of losses. They traded for Sky Moore recently. They just got Brian Robinson Jr., which I'm very interested to see what they do now with McCaffrey and Robinson in the backfield. That's arguably a top 5 backfield in the league. I think Robinson's a great third down running back. He's going to get you touchdowns in the red zone. And McCaffrey, you guys know how well he is when he plays. He's one of the best players in the league. They also signed Nate Sudfeld, re-signed George Kittle with a huge contract. They signed DeMarcus Robinson. They brought in kicker Greg Joseph to battle for that spot with Jake Moody, because Jake Moody's been very inconsistent, and I thought coming out of the draft a few years ago he was going to be one of the best kickers in the league by now, and he's battling for a roster spot right now. I am very excited for this team, because we know how good Kyle Shanahan is. We know how great Brock Purdy is. We know how great all of these guys are, but we knew that last year and they were disappointed. So that's where I'm at right now. I don't really know with this team. It's a lot of what ifs and maybes. What if Brock Purdy stays healthy? What if George Kittle doesn't get hurt? What if Jennings becomes a legit wide receiver one in this league? What if Pearsall takes that next step? But if this is all what ifs, what if Christian McCaffrey doesn't get hurt? Because if Christian McCaffrey doesn't get hurt, this team's going to the Super Bowl. And I know I've said that a lot for 2 teams already, but I really believe that if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, he's the X factor for the San Francisco 49ers. I think if he's healthy, they make a run. If he's not healthy, they will either make the playoffs and lose in the first round, or they're not making the playoffs at all. That's really what I think they are. So I'm under the impression that Christian McCaffrey is going to be healthy. So I'm going to have them going 13-4. I think they can win this division. Even though a lot of people will consider this a down year for them with all the losses that they've had in the offseason, I still believe in them, and I really think that they can make a big jump this year. Next is the Arizona Cardinals. Now, they didn't make any huge moves in the offseason. It was a lot of just retaining guys. But there was some news around them. Marvin Harrison Jr. looks like he's taking that next step both physically and mentally. He just looks better. He looks huge. He's starting to come into that wide receiver one mold. Also, I know I've said this a lot with some draft players this year, but the Cardinals have, I think, a steal in Will Johnson. If you guys have watched any of the training camp footage, he has been shutting down Marvin Harrison Jr., has potential to be one of the best wide receivers in the league in a few years. So Will Johnson could be the steal of the draft, or one of the steals of the draft. Kyler Murray has sort of shut down the haters recently. And also Trey Benson, I think, will be a breakout star this year. We saw a little bit of that last year, but I think this year he takes that next step. James Conner is also, James Conner is going to give you over 1,000 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. That's just something with James Conner. He's very consistent at that, and he's very good at it. And the only question marks that I have with this team is the defense. The offense, what you're getting with everybody. They're going to be a solid offense, but the defense is really my question mark and point of concern. So with that, I think they're going to go 8-9. Maybe I could see a 9-8, but I cannot see them making it into the playoffs. I think they're 1 year away. I think you get another good draft class in. I think Kyler takes another year. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. has a little bit of a sophomore slump, but then sort of peaks at the end of the season. And I think this team will end the season hot and continue that into next season. Finally, guys, the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the hype around the Los Angeles Rams is legit. Matthew Stafford's a legit quarterback. They have a bunch of great receivers. This team is legit. But I don't know how they're going to do with losing. They lost a lot on the O-line as well. They lost Cooper Kupp, like I said. They lost DeMarcus Robinson. They lost Michael Hort. They lost Jonah Jackson. They lost Joe Notenboom. They lost Bobby Brown. They lost a lot of guys that were key pillars for them. And I'm really concerned about this O-line. You have an aging quarterback back there who's already hasn't played in the preseason or done any workouts yet because of his injuries in Matthew Stafford. But we know Matthew Stafford's great when he's healthy, but can he stay healthy? Because, listen, Jimmy G's a serviceable backup, but he's nothing special. You need Matt Stafford to be a legit team in this league. A lot of people on SportsCenter and all these networkings have the Rams as a top 10 team in the NFL. Their defense is legit. Jared Verse will be, I think, a Defensive Player of the Year candidate this year. But I'm worried for Matthew Stafford. If Matthew Stafford's not healthy, this team's not doing anything. And I feel like that's the issue with a lot of these teams in the NFL is they don't have a great backup quarterback. Like my Chicago Bears, Tyson Bagent is one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. That's a topic for another day. But I think if the Rams are going to succeed this year, Matthew Stafford needs to be healthy. They have a great defense. They have a solid offense with Kyron Williams back there. I think they also drafted Terrence Ferguson, a tight end out of Oregon, who I really like. But they need to be and also they brought in Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. So they didn't lose much by losing Cooper Kupp. I'm just really concerned for Matthew Stafford. They have a great offense. They have a great defense. But if that one piece is missing, I don't know. I mean, we saw last year the Vikings weren't supposed to do anything, and then you put Sam Darnold in there with 2 elite receivers and a good tight end and a good running back, and they were in the playoffs. Maybe that's what happens if Matthew Stafford gets hurt, but I don't know. I'm leaning towards 13-4 with the Rams. And I think I'm going to stay with that. I think this Super Bowl window that everyone thought was over is not. I think they'll still be competing, and I think this offense didn't really take a step back. You lost Cooper Kupp in that connection with Matthew Stafford, but you brought in Devontae Adams, who's arguably one of the top receivers in football still. But guys, that's all I have for today's episode of the John, your daily sports tip, where I gave you guys my predictions for the NFC West. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram for sports updates and hot takes in real time. And if you're looking for even more sports talk, check out the Sports Syllabus Show, where my partner and I tackle the hottest topics in college sports and beyond. It's a two-ply discussion, strong, reliable, and always ready to clean up the messy takes in college sports and beyond. Join me next time on the John, your daily sports tip. We'll be dropping it like it's hot with sizzling sports updates. Until then, keep game face on and stay regular. This is the John.
Don't nobody go in the bathroom for about 35, 45 minutes. Somebody open the window.